I got my first flex pen, the Noodler's Ahab Navajo for Christmas. Yay! Even more beautiful than in pictures. I'm glad you like it. But I'm a bit hesitant. I finally stopped using tons of pressure on my regular fountain pens. So my question is twofold. How much pressure is too much? I feel like the tines are barely opening up even when I'm pressing down pretty hard. And over time, do Noodler's flex nibs become flexier with more use? Okay, so I have an Ahab right here that I can show you what's going on. It made its appearance a question or two earlier, but so these pens are steel nibs. Most flex pens, especially flex pens of old, have been gold nibs because gold is a softer metal. It's a little bit easier to flex with them, but you can overdo it with gold, and gold is expensive. And to get gold nibs to flex requires a lot of finesse, a lot of hand tuning, and special stuff to make those happen. That's why there's not a lot of them around. Noodler's was pretty innovative when they came out with a steel nibbed flex pen. Now it's not a wet noodle, very, specific flex pen term there. It's not where you just like apply a little bit of pressure and you flex that thing out. You gotta go for the gusto. So especially if you are just getting used to not writing with a lot of pressure, it's gonna feel somewhat unnatural for you to write with some pressure. So I'm going to try to show you here. It's a little weird for me to be holding the pad in midair and trying to write this, but if you're writing, I'm writing with a pretty decent amount of pressure, and the nib is bending, but the tines are not really flexing apart so much. Okay, it's a little bit, but I'm applying more pressure than I would basically to any other fountain pen. And the key here is really to make sure that you have a proper angle, like a 45-degree angle. If you're holding your pen up here, you can apply all the pressure you want, and it is not going to flex out because you're just not applying the right amount of leverage. The lower you hold the pen, the more leverage you have on those tines. So if I'm holding it right here, and I'll try to do it, so that you can really see what's going on, I can flex that thing out to a pretty good degree. And you can get a good 2.5, 3 millimeter spread on that nib, and it'll bend back and be just fine. In order to over flex this nib to the point where it would actually cause it harm, you have to basically use two hands and try to do it. It's pretty tough. Like the 7 fountain pen mistakes video that we did, when Jenny, had to try to bend that nib, she had to mash the thing down there. So you can abuse these things pretty good, and you can get replacement nibs too for only a couple of bucks. And so you can really go for it. But you have to really kind of go against your own goodwill or your own better judgment of what you would normally do on a fountain pen. Because you're applying so much more pressure. But as you're doing it, and you always have to do it in a pulling motion as well. If you're trying to do it on the cross stroke, it's going to be unnatural. If your pen angle is too high, it's not going to flex out much. You got to make sure your pen angle is low, that you're applying pressure, especially down towards right where the nib is. And that's you want to make sure that your pressure is going down like at this point. You don't want to apply the pressure towards the nib. So you're not mashing into the paper, you're drawing it kind of this way. So I don't know if that helps at all, but the video that we have on how to use a flex nib is a way better, kind of visual representation of that. So I think that's kind of the situation that you're in. So when it comes to this particular pen, how much pressure is too much? You would have to almost try to have too much pressure. And then over time, are the flex nibs going to become easier with use than Noodler's ones? The steel is pretty tough. It's pretty resilient. It's metal, so over time, yes, metal will bend and it will loosen up a little bit. I haven't been using one nib consistently enough over the years to notice any type of a difference. This is the pen that I've probably used more than any other, just in my demonstrations and stuff like that, but I don't write with a flex pen daily or anything like that, so I haven't used any pen yet enough to notice a difference for me. But just, physically, yes, over time it will weaken, it will spread a little easier, but I think you'd have to use it for quite a while for that to really be able to happen.